If you wanted to attend the music festival of the year, what you got is half a slice of cheese, a glass of freshly squeezed ocean water. Now, the only way off this island is Rusty's so cheap that he does not take emotional distress. Visa, everywhere you want it, and some places you really don't.
Let's get it. It's Juan Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork you do not get anywhere else. We do not teach you how to rise to the occasion. We teach you how to fall to your level of preparation around here, folks. Meaning you have to stay ready so you don't have to get ready, because life is going to come at you really, really fast. If you decide to choose this lifestyle, you got to understand how fast life is going to come at you. Because of that, you have to have a mindset set up on system, right? And every single Monday, if we keep it over my work for quite some time, every single Monday, we do something called a Make Your Move Monday kickoff question. It takes on a bigger meaning during the football season, right? So, again, every Monday, it's meant to be something thought-provoking. It's meant to be something that puts you in alignment with your business, with your leadership mentality. All things employee development is what we do around here in the Move Swiftly world, right? So, as far as today's question, and this is coming off the heels of, the unfortunate passing and the assassination, the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk, and, seeing in order to get prepared for this, I was listening to some of the speeches from his service. I haven't gotten through all of them yet, but, remembering what he was all about and how abruptly it happened and how quick life changes just like that within the matter of seconds. That security removes itself. It's such a difficult thing. Life comes at you and it comes at you fast. So question is, what are your principles? Right? What are your principles? What are the foundational pieces about your life that you're sticking in the ground, cementing, and making sure those principles are the things that you're remembered by? Because it's the principles at the end of the day that are going to be the things that last a lifetime, not the people around you. People are going to come in and out of your life. Personalities are going to change. Situations and circumstances are going to change. Ideas are going to change. Services, whatever it is you want to offer, all that stuff is going to change. But your principles are everything. And I'm the way it works. So the way it works. And by the way, I'm not sure what time I'll be able to dive deeper into all this in the live stream today. We've got a couple of things to get done. This morning. But I will be jumping on the live stream to do a deeper dive on this very topic. But the point is every time I do a question like this, or every Monday, I put a question out there because I've answered the question myself. There's something I'm living through in the current moment that's making me want to pose the question, and then I answer it myself. So I'm answering the question in order to help you, help somebody help you understand what it is I live through and what my principles are. There are two things. There's quite a few. So tomorrow we'll get into my top 5. But the two things, number one, is I'm not a victim of my circumstances, and that I cannot take today for granted. And two things in particular that made me live my life that way is in 5th grade. And some of you who have tuned into my work previously may have heard the story where I had a coach who passed away right there on the field in the middle of doing what he loved. The same way, Charlie, not the same way, but in the same breath, the same situation that Charlie Kirk wasn't a bullet, obviously, it was a massive heart attack that killed him. But the long and the short of it is seeing death happen right in front of me. I seen death happen right in front of me with a coach that I adored, all right? And it taught me at a very young age, cannot take today for granted. You gotta live for today. You cannot be in this place where you're constantly taking the moments for granted. That's number one. I'm only giving you 2 for now. But number 2 is, again, not a victim, and not a person that is going to use an excuse to not get to the place where I want to get to. And that's something that got instilled in me from my father, who would have conversations with me about school and how people are always trying to intimidate us as the school system when it comes to honors classes, this and doctrines and all these sorts of things that they put out there. And he was telling me, I remember him telling me years ago, telling me a story about how all that stuff, he heard all that stuff, and he just went out and did what he did, and graduated with with a degree, an architectural degree from Catholic University of America. Okay, so again, that's kind of the short end of it. I'll be diving deeper into the article as I always do on the live stream today. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe to this very channel. We do this all day, every day. We're all about all employee development here. Main website to check out to dive deeper into all the work I do. It's makeyamove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one coaching, one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys can see it. Move Swiftly. We will talk more soon. All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you are consuming this. As promised, I am here. Let me just reintroduce myself to anybody new to this world. My name is Aswan Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator. And you see the hat, baby. Let's go. Let's go, Commanders. We got a big victory without Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota stepped in, did his thing, finished off the 2. So the two teams I'm a diehard fan of, Michigan Wolverines and the Washington Commanders. So both of them got a win this weekend. So it was a good weekend, a damn good weekend for me when we get those dubs up, right? So before I go, as you heard, today we're talking, or as you can see right there on the screen, we're talking about principles all week. The theme is, what are your principles? What are principles? And do you have them? Do you live by them? Is there something that you do every single day that's in alignment with the principles that have been instilled in you? And principles, I'll get into this when we get into the article, but principles are basically fundamental truths, fundamental foundational pieces in which you stand by and you work every day to go after it, right? Principles are so very important, and they're so important because they're limited to you, or they're catered. Everybody has principles that's catered to them, and it's going to be based on the way you grew up and based on the way the things that you learned is valuable when you grew up, right? I myself, again, as a person that was in a 2-parent household and I had an older sister, and a lot of the things that I saw growing up, I'm learning as I continue to grow. I continue to meet people. I continue to have relationships, and like people come in and out of my life, all that stuff, all of the things that were foundationally in me and stuck in me in my mind, and the way I operate are things that come out in conversation, come out when I'm being watched, come out when I'm dealing with situations that I didn't even realize occurred was a problem. So principles is so very important. And again, these topics I come up with every day. It's not because I just think of them out of my ass. It's just stuff I'm really actually living through and can affect my everyday, my work, and stuff like that. So before I get too into it, let me before I get too into it, let me just get through some announcements here. First things first, as you guys just heard, main website to check out to dive deeper into everything I'm about, all things employee development. It's makeyamove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. You can get the free guide. You can book me to speak, or you can just simply learn more about me, or you can shop and pick up a couple copies of my books. You can talk a little or ask more, inquire more about boxing lessons and the employee development workshops and all the merch, and all the stuff is right there on the store. That, by the way, is going to start getting updated regularly and stuff like that. So main thing, though, is to go to Innovative Teamwork tab, and this is the result you as a business owner is going to get when you decide to work with me directly. Turn your business into a championship team. It is common knowledge that the best way to win in business or in life is by avoiding ways to lose. Whether you've just started a new business or you've been in business for quite some time, there is no getting around the need to hire or outsource certain elements of your organization so things can run as efficiently as possible. When you book your meeting with Aswan, he'll diagnose what the issues are with your current system and then strategically create a system in which will lead to a reduced amount of turnover or a clear understanding of the parts of your business that need to be outsourced. All right, so that's makingmove.com. All right, let's get into today's article. All right, let's get into how I came up with this topic. And just for the record, I'll keep this live
limited to around 20 minutes. So I'll run through this article real quick as there's a couple things I got to get done today. As you can see, while the live stream's a little later, it's a little off schedule. It's a little longer, or it's at a different time than it normally is because there's, errands I got to run, things I got to take care of on my end. One of the things as we're getting into this last quarter of the year, and me being now in a relationship and me being in a situation where decisions got to be made. I'm learning in live, in full, in camera. Again, I'm not saying any names, not putting any names out there, not doing anything, but I'm learning that my lifestyle now is not just going to be about affecting Oswald. My lifestyle now, I have to think about people and think about the future and the future way I want to live, which is honestly ultimately something that I wanted to play out on camera. I always want to be that guy that is able to publicly share certain things. Obviously not everything because of, privacy issues, but I always wanted to be a person that people can look me up online and see how much I've publicly grown from where I was 3 or 4 years ago to where I am now, and then where I'm going to be 10, 15 years down the line. To me, that's development, that's progress, that's something I've strategically and always wanted to put myself in there. And, that's what led to today's Move Swiftly thought. That's what led to the entire theme is, what are your principles? As you think about what's next for you and what's next for your life and how your next phase, your next chapter is going to be, your principles are going to remain the same. Your principles are going to be the things that propel you and get you to a trajectory, get you to a place where you're happy. Understand, for me and the life I live and the process in which I was able to start to develop my career, it came unplanned. It came simply because I put in the work that I never wanted to be a person that was dependent on somebody else when it came to raising a family. I wanted to, put myself in a situation where with the right person, they can support what it is I do, and it not be something that they are supporting to be fun or fake, but something that they support because they genuinely believe in the work I do. That's why I put so much work in. That's why my lifestyle is the way it is. And that's why I was able to get the position that I was able to get and start to really, really establish some roots out here in South Florida. It took me a long time to do that. But the principles, the principles is what remained the same. The principles, the principles is what led me to have that mindset and that decision. So all that being said, let me jump into the article today. And again, as you can see right there on the screen, what are your principles? All right, what are your principles? And I love that shot. I just love that shot. I was at my aunt's house in Miami, and the sunrise was it was just absolutely incredible. So I just finished a great run, took the snapshot. You just did. I just love that shot. I really do. I love that shot. Anyway, so here we are, second to last Monday in September. The fallout from the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk has dominated the internet, and sadly, it's shown a side of people and humanity that's beyond disgraceful. And that's just a true statement. I've lost respect for people I didn't think highly of to begin with because their reactions have only deepened the ugliness. When life is lost, you think it would create a space for compassion, for open-mindedness, for basic decency, but instead, some have doubled down on their hateful ways. At this point, only God can reach them. So this brings me directly into this week's kickoff question and theme. What are your principles? All right. So before we get into that, that's the way life works, folks. I mean, something tragic like what Charlie Kirk went through, something tragic like what you may have been through, what you've lived through, what you've seen, you start to see a side of people that's unbecoming. And the thing I would welcome and I would challenge you to do is call that side of people out. Call that thing out. Call it out right there, especially if it's a person that you want, that you plan on having a long-term relationship with, that you're making plans with, that you're working with, that you don't want to get to the point where you're in the habit of not calling these things out and end up with a situation that you don't want to be in. So call things out when you see it because it's going to make it so they know and people know. That is very important. That one's coming from the heart. It's something I'm living through right now, in which if it would have gotten called out to me like in a real harsh way at the time, then it wouldn't be a problem today. All right. So let's define principles. All right. Let's get a clear definition of the word principles so we're all on the same page. And as you build your business, as you grow your organization, you got to understand exactly what it is, what exactly the principles are. So here it is. Principles, a fundamental truth or belief that serves as the foundation for how you live, how you act, and what you stand on. One more time for the people in the back. A fundamental truth or belief that serves as the foundation for how you live, how you act, and what you stand on. As a sport and fitness director at the school where I currently teach, I often drill this into my students during tough workouts. I'll have them repeat after me as I yell, nothing worth having comes easy. The principle behind that is persistence and effort. All right. So when I'm telling you, I'm telling the class, nothing worth having comes easy. The principles and the fundamental truths that are behind that are persistence and effort. Meaning you're going to develop the persistence, you're going to learn how to get effort when you're going after things that are worth having, because they won't come easy. If it came easy, you won't need persistence, you won't need effort. So when I'm explaining that to people, the principle is persistence and effort. All right. So here's the thing, and this is why it's important that we develop and we have this discussion. But here's the thing: persistence and effort are only powerful if pointed in the right direction. The wrong kind of persistence, like relentless effort to smear Charlie Kirk as a racist or a fascist, which he was not, is what ultimately led to his death. Solid principles must be planted early, clearly explained, and held with zero negotiation. These got to be your non-negotiables. These got to be your non-negotiables, folks. These have to be the things that you say to yourself every day. I don't care how good the situation is. If you're talking about relationships, if you're talking about money, if you're talking about whatever you're talking about, if they're getting in the way of your principles that have been laid out in your own mind, and they're making it so your principles are starting to be challenged and you're not able to do the things that you are called to do, or do the things that you're going against your word and your dignity and all that kind of stuff, then you got to figure out a way to work around the situation. And again, let someone know what the issue is, because if it gets said the right way, if it gets said early enough, and this is why it's important that we plant it clearly and early. That word early is very important in this situation. The earlier you say these things, the quicker they can be fixed. If something gets said early based upon how you act and based upon the difference in terms of the way your actions are moving, if it gets said early enough, it can be fixed potentially. But it can't be fixed if it's been months and years and years and years of you doing this one thing and it's not being called out. It needs to be said bluntly. It needs to be said early, it needs to be said clearly, it needs to be planted so it can have a better chance of getting fixed, whatever the situation is. And I'm sure you can think of something right now as I'm talking that you needed to say to someone that needed to be fixed right now in the moment. So my principles boil down to two. So I could list a dozen, but I'll keep it brief to give you that. I'll keep it brief and give you the two that guide everything I do. So the two that are most important to me, principle-wise, in terms of how I operate, in terms of what it is I'm all about. Again, tomorrow I'll give you the top five, but the two are, like I mentioned in today's News Swiftly Thought, tomorrow is not promised. All right, this one comes straight from my heart. When I was in, again, some of you who tuned into my work have heard the story before, but it's a story for me. It's a story for me that really, really shakes me up when I think about this whole concept of old age, right? When I think about this whole idea of getting older and, being someone that is a coach to kids, a mentor to kids, is a person to kids that they look up to. All right. So here we go. Tomorrow is not promised. When I was in fifth grade, I was a shy kid in Silver Spring, Maryland, who found belonging in football. I was voted captain. I was voted team captain, and our head coach was an older white male named Coach Art. We loved him. One Saturday during a game, we were winning a game he was proud of, a game he was proud of because the team we were beating had embarrassed us just a week before. He collapsed and died right there on the field. I'll never forget watching him struggle for breath. That image is burned in my mind forever. From that day on, I understood tomorrow is not promised. That truth pushes me every single day, pushes me to make sure every single day counts and that I create work that will outlast me. That right there is so absolutely important when it comes to my world and what it is I do. I gotta create work I gotta create work that will outlast me. I gotta push to make every single day something that counts. Even as inconvenient as doing this live is right now, it has to get done because that's what I put my stamp on. That is what is so fucking important to do. All right. So that's number one. Number two is I'm not a victim. This one came directly from my father, directly from that man. All right. He made sure I stayed locked in on my academics, no excuses. I remember walking with him once, telling him about these rigorous programs and college challenging courses I heard about. He cut that myth to pieces, explaining how he'd been through similar things and passed the same course without a problem. That day taught me something I've carried for life. Don't buy into the narrative of being a victim. Especially as a young black man, I refuse to accept that I'm at the mercy of systems, labels, or excuses. That mindset has never resonated with me, and I won't tolerate it from anyone around me. And that's exactly what drew me to Charlie Kirk's work. He was bold enough to say what most won't. That victimhood culture is destructive. He reminded people that they have power, responsibility, and the ability to rise above circumstances instead of living under them. That message resonated deeply with me because it aligned perfectly with what my father instilled in me at a young age. Both of these principles, tomorrow is not promised, and I'm not a victim, keep me grounded every day. One reminds me that life is fragile and urgent. The other reminds me that life is powerful and mine to own. Together, they shape how I lead, how I teach, how I build, and how I live. So I'll ask you again this Monday morning, what are your principles? Do they push you forward when the world tries to hold you back? Do they guide your choices when life gets heavy? Or are they just words you say but don't stand on? Because at the end of the day, your principles are either the anchor that keeps you steady or the weakness that lets the current take you away. So the action step is if you want to sharpen your principles and apply them to work and leadership in life, to makingmove.com for all the things employee development and book a meeting with me today. So that's all I got for you guys today because I got to get going. But the big thing and the big takeaway and the big point of me making sure I broke this down for you is because you just never know what's going to happen tomorrow. We can't predict the future, but the one thing you can have is to make sure today you're doing something. Today you're putting in some level of work. Today, right now, you've done something that's going to better make your future a little better. All right. So all that being said, as I mentioned already, main website to check out to dive deeper into all the work I'm all about. It's makeyamove.com. It's makeyamove.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one person, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.